The US military's biggest enemy is not missiles or submarines, it is bacteria. Right now, floating somewhere in the Pacific, there is 1,000 tons of food that should be rotting, but it is not. What they are doing to stop nature itself breaks every rule restaurants follow. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier feeds over 5,000 sailors 3 meals a day. That is 17,000 individual meals every 24 hours. No grocery store for thousands of miles. No DoorDash. Just ocean. So, where does all this food come from? The Defense Commissary Agency starts coordinating months before deployment. They are talking to farms, food processors, and warehouses across the entire country. It is like planning the world's largest dinner party, except the guests carry fighter jets. When loading day arrives, it is controlled chaos. Forklifts everywhere, pallets stacked high, hundreds of sailors lined up like the world's most exhausting conga line. They call it underway replenishment, and it takes 10 to 12 hours of nonstop work to load 1,000 tons of food. Here's the wild part. Sailors form human chains to pass boxes hand to hand through corridors barely wide enough for one person. Your grandma's bucket brigade for the church potluck? Same concept, just multiply it by about 10,000. Fresh produce and dairy arrive last but go below first. Makes sense, right? The shortest shelf life means they need refrigeration immediately. The average carrier stocks 90 days worth of food. That means supply officers have to predict exactly what 5,000 people will want to eat 3 months from now. My wife cannot decide what she wants for dinner tonight, but getting the food on board is just the beginning. Keeping it fresh, that is where things get really interesting. Deep in the belly of the ship, there is a frozen fortress most sailors never see. We are talking massive freezer compartments kept at minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That is cold enough to preserve meat for an entire 90-day deployment. These freezers hold over 60,000 pounds of protein, beef, chicken, pork, fish, all stacked on industrial shelving designed to handle 30-foot waves without spilling a single ribeye. And get this, you could be sailing through the Persian Gulf where it is 120 degrees outside, and sailors still need heavy coats and gloves just to walk into storage. It is like stepping into Antarctica while parked next to Saudi Arabia. But the real magic happens before the meat even gets loaded. Everything gets flash frozen first. Why does that matter? Because fast freezing creates tiny ice crystals inside the tissue. Slow freezing creates big crystals that tear up the meat fibers. That is why your home frozen chicken turns mushy after a few months. The Navy figured this out decades ago. The freezer doors themselves are basically submarine hatches. Watertight, airtight, built to keep cold air locked in even if the ship takes battle damage. Dedicated technicians check temperatures every 4 hours around the clock because one compressor failure could spoil $200,000 worth of protein overnight. But frozen meat only gets you so far. Fresh vegetables need something completely different. Freezing works great for meat, but try freezing a tomato and you'll get mush. So carriers have completely separate refrigerated compartments that hover between 34 and 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Not frozen, just cold enough to slow down spoilage. Apples, oranges, and potatoes get the VIP treatment in these spaces. Why? Because they are survivors. A properly stored potato can last 2 months without complaining. Oranges hold up nearly as well. These are the marathon runners of the produce world. Leafy greens, though? Gone by week 2. No amount of careful refrigeration keeps lettuce crisp for 90 days. It is physically impossible. So enjoy that salad bar early because it is not coming back. Here's a trick most people do not know. Eggs get coated with mineral oil before loading. This seals the tiny pores in the shell and extends freshness from weeks to months. Your grandmother probably did this during the Depression. The Navy still does it today, but temperature alone is not enough. Humidity matters just as much. Too wet and your apples rot. Too dry and your carrots turn into rubber bands. It is a constant balancing act. Sailors describe the fresh produce situation pretty bluntly. Week 1 tastes like a restaurant, week 6 tastes like hospital food, and when the fresh stuff finally runs out completely, that is when the real creativity starts. Now let's go somewhere most people don't even know exists. Below the hangar deck, there is a dry storage area the size of a small warehouse. We are talking pasta, rice, flour, canned goods, cereals, the stuff that does not need refrigeration, but still needs proper conditions. These spaces stay between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit with low humidity. Basically, the Navy turned a warship into a floating Costco. Except this Costco can survive a missile attack. Here's where it gets interesting. Canned goods become the backbone of every meal after the second month. A properly sealed can stays safe for 2 to 5 years without using a single watt of electricity. No freezers, no compressors, just good old-fashioned metal and vacuum seals. Your grandparents understood this technology. They also understood that canned peaches at 3 a.m. hit different. And when fresh milk runs out around week 8, powdered milk steps in. Same with dehydrated potatoes. Not glamorous, but reliable. Every single box down there gets logged into a computerized inventory system. The software tracks expiration dates and automatically flags anything approaching its use by window. No guessing. No surprises. But here is the detail that surprised me. All that steel shelving is bolted directly to the hull with heavy restraining straps. When a carrier rolls 30 degrees in rough seas, 500 cans of soup become 500 high-speed projectiles. So what happens when all these systems actually fail? So everything's running smoothly? Freezers humming, refrigerators chilling, dry goods stacked nice and neat. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Let us say a freezer compressor dies at 2 in the morning. Suddenly you have 48 hours before thousands of pounds of meat become a health hazard. The solution? An emergency barbecue on the flight deck. I am not joking. Cooks fire up grills and start cooking everything they can before it spoils. It is the world's most stressful cookout, but that is just Plan B. Plan C involves underway replenishment ships that can pull alongside the carrier while both vessels cruise at 15 knots. Picture 2 ships moving through the open ocean, waves rolling, cables stretching between them, pallets swinging through the air. One wrong move and someone's lunch ends up at the bottom of the Pacific. Then there is VERTREP. Helicopters can drop 20,000 pounds of supplies in just a few hours when cables are not an option. During the 2020 COVID outbreak on the Theodore Roosevelt, supply teams delivered 70,000 pounds of fresh food to Guam in 72 hours. That is crisis logistics at its finest. And if everything fails, there are MRE rations, meals ready to eat for emergency use. Each pouch contains 1,200 calories and requires no cooking. Sailors jokingly call them meals refusing to exit, a nickname I will let you figure out. But here is what makes this food actually usable. Here's the thing about being in the middle of the ocean. You're surrounded by water, billions of gallons of it, and you can't drink a single drop. Salt water will actually dehydrate you faster than drinking nothing at all. Your kidneys work overtime trying to flush out the salt, and you end up worse than when you started. So how does a carrier keep 5,000 people hydrated for 3 months? Nuclear power. Those reactors aren't just pushing the ship around. They're running massive distillation plants that boil seawater and capture the steam. Pure H2O rises, salt stays behind. Simple science, massive scale. We are talking 400,000 gallons of fresh water produced every single day. That's enough to fill 16 backyard swimming pools daily. And here's what surprised me. This water is actually cleaner than what comes out of most kitchen faucets back home. The distillation process strips out everything. Salt, bacteria, minerals, chemicals, gone. But sailors have a funny complaint about it. The water tastes flat, almost too pure. Those minerals we are used to, they give water its flavor. Carrier water has none of that personality. Storage tanks hold another 250,000 gallons as backup, spread throughout the ship. If one section takes damage, you don't lose your entire water supply. Now water is handled. But who is actually managing this floating grocery operation? A carrier burns through 18,000 meals daily. That's 6 tons of food vanishing every 24 hours. Gone. Just like my paycheck at a buffet. The person responsible for all this? The supply officer. They hold the rank of commander and manage 400 sailors across food service, retail, money handling, and officer dining. It's like running a hotel, grocery store, and bank simultaneously. while floating. Culinary specialists track every single ounce through inventory software. These systems calculate burn rates and predict exactly when each food category hits empty. Week 7, we are out of butter. Week 9, cheese becomes a memory. The math has to be perfect. Menu planning happens 6 weeks ahead of time. They rotate through 21-day meal cycles because nothing destroys morale faster than eating the same chicken on the same day for 3 months straight. Variety matters when you're stuck on a floating metal box. Here's a number that surprised me. Food costs average $10 to $12 per sailor per day. Multiply that by 5,000 people, and the carrier spends $50,000 daily just on feeding everyone. But here's what really matters. Running out of coffee has been officially documented as a bigger threat to morale than running out of dessert, or anything else, really. Makes sense. Tired sailors don't care about cake. All this food needs somewhere to actually get cooked, though. Now here's where it gets wild. 4 main galleys run 22 hours a day across this ship. Not 1. 4. Why 2 hours of downtime? Deep cleaning. Because cooking for 5,000 people nonstop creates a mess you wouldn't believe. Each galley packs commercial-grade equipment that would make restaurant owners jealous. 50-gallon steam kettles, convection ovens stacked 3 high, griddles so massive they can flip 200 pancakes at once. My local diner struggles with 12. But here's the thing most people miss. Sailors don't all eat at normal times. You've got people working every hour of the day and night. So there's this beautiful tradition called mid-rats, midnight rations, a full hot meal served at 11 p.m. for roughly 1,500 night shift workers. And the bread? Fresh, every single day. Onboard bakeries crank out 800 loaves and 1,000 dinner rolls from scratch. No frozen dough, no delivery truck pulling up, just sailors who trained as bakers making real bread while floating in the middle of the Pacific. Food safety inspectors show up weekly. One norovirus outbreak could knock out 500 sailors simultaneously. Suddenly, you cannot launch aircraft because everyone is fighting for bathroom stalls instead of fighting enemies. Yet despite all this industrial-scale cooking, culinary specialists genuinely care. Thanksgiving dinner means 500 hand-roasted turkeys and 300 homemade pies. Speaking of pride, someone has to keep all this running smoothly.